Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Spanish Football Podcast. I'm Phil Kitromilides. I'm joined by Sid Lowe. Hello, Sydney.
Hi, Phil. How are you?
I'm okay. That's a nice little smile you're giving me at the start of the
Well, you've been away
podcast.
for a few days, haven't you? So I'm, welcoming you back.
Oh, thank you, with a slightly alluring, enticing smile. I appreciate it. Thanks, Sid.
I think that's the only time I've ever been referred to as alluring in my entire life.
Alluring and enticing, much like Spain are looking right now, Sid. Oof. Hashtag alluring and enticing. Yes.
Yeah. Really,
Spain
really good.
Spain looking really, really good. They are all but mathematically qualified for the World Cup unless they lose 7-0 to Turkey tomorrow, which isn't going to happen. They beat Georgia 4-0.
Oh, it might.
It's not going to happen, Sid.
No, it's not. Okay.
It's not going to happen. There's no chance. Chance. 0% possibility. That's going to happen. Spain looking ominously good with this another big win against Georgia. And obviously, perhaps, at the risk of going over old ground here, Spain looking good. We know that. We've said that. They're a very good team. But perhaps maybe the most eye-catching thing about this particular performance and this particular result was that it was done without 6/7 players who are genuinely first choice in this starting 11. If they're fit, we're talking about Lamine, Pedri, Rodri, Dani Carvajal, Nico Williams, and
Robin Lenormand is the other, I think,
and Robin Lenormand, and then Dean Howson as well. Not Dean Howson. Who's it? Pau Kubasi. Or was it?
No, it was Howson. It was Howson. Yeah. Well, but Howson has pulled out. Yeah.
Anyway, lots of players who would have started this game if they were fit, and it doesn't matter because this Spain team and this Spain squad is so good and has such a clear idea, and everybody knows what they're supposed to do when they come in. On the radio, they were pretty euphoric, and they were saying, "We haven't just got one great team; we've got two great teams. Spain are a brilliant pair of teams." But it's kind of difficult to disagree with that.
Exactly, and let's go back through the various phases, because I think this is quite interesting, and it's that each phase we've been sort of wrong. I mean, not entirely wrong, but sort of wrong. So you go into the European Championships and you think, Spain have got good players, but they haven't really got those players who are the very best in the world. And I remember being at Las Rozas before that European Championships, and Alvaro Morata saying to us, "What are you talking about?" And basically the question being, if you think about Ballon d'Or winners, Spain don't really have them. And Morata said, well, Rodri should have already won it and still could. Lamine will win it one day. Nico Williams is good enough. Unai Simon's as good a goalkeeper as is anywhere in the world. So don't tell me there's no Ballon d'Or candidates. Anyway, then you get a European Championships in which they're brilliant, in which Nico and Lamine, who are the two people that Rodri had really talked about, are fantastic and are, if you like, that differential that made them, that kind of embodied the shift in style. The shift in style, the shift in generation, the speed, the directness, the technical quality, the one-on-one, and so on. And then you get Rodri wins the Ballon d'Or. Then you get into the situation, but what about the strength in depth? And what about the centre forward? Because we're still not sure, and we're not sure when it's Morata, and we're not sure when Morata's not there. And Oyarzabal keeps on providing goals. And keeps on providing goals. I think he's up to 20 or 21 now. 21 it is with the national team. And he's continuously doing it. And then let's take you to what me and Al were talking about in the podcast on Friday. And we were talking about the one doubt we had was not so much the absences, because we talked about the strength and depth, the quality of the various options at central defence, the quality of the various options across the midfield. Fabian doesn't always have to play. Gavi's still got to come back. Pedri's there, Mikel Merino, and so on, right? But then we were saying, but the one thing we weren't sure about was what happens when neither Nico or Lamine are there. And I said something on Friday's podcast, which was, I think you can have inverted wingers, but it does change the nature and the shape and the feel of the team. And I think I said words to this effect, more or less, something along the lines of, I feel like you could have one of them as inverted, but I think it would be a problem to have two of them as inverted. You want one of Lamine or Nico there at least. Preferably, of course, you want both, but you want one of them at least. And of course, we were talking about this in the context of both of them suffering from pubalgia at the moment and having those difficulties in fitness. And we're thinking, I'm not entirely sure that this inverted winger thing that we talked about so many times over the last 5 or 6 years, Spain having lots of neat and tidy players in wide positions, but it sort of lacked a little bit of cutting edge. It lacked a bit of excitement. It lacked a little bit of directness. You'd have Dani Olmo coming in. You'd have people like Carlos Soler coming in. And we're saying, where are the other wingers? Because we talked about the two Bryans, Zaragoza and Gil, and we thought, it's not really the same, is it? In fact, it's not at all the same. Anyway, so they go into this weekend's games with Ferran Torres in one nominally wide position, coming in on what I was calling on Friday the David Villa run. And on the other side, Alex Baena, who we said can sort of play there and has been doing a little bit for Atletico Madrid, but we're not sure if we like him there. And they were brilliant. So even that one doubt we had as recently as 3 days ago has kind of gone. Now, I'm going to hold up my hands here and say, let's all just calm down a weensy bit, because it was gone against a not very good team. And that would be my one thing here, is to say, all right, but it's not against a really good team.
Well, no, it's not against a really good team. You don't tend to come up against really, really good teams in
No.
World Cup qualifying that much anyway.
Of course you don't. That's a reality. And
Yeah.
this helps to explain why Spain has scored, 20-odd goals and not conceded any. England are in a similar position. I think it's 19 for Spain and 20 for England, and they both haven't conceded. I was going, right, that run of games, I've got the list here, so I'm going to go through it for you because it made me laugh a little bit this morning. I was trying to find I was trying to be the Grinch. I was trying to say, it's not up to much, is it? Spain's amazing record of ever since March 2023, when they lost to Scotland in Glasgow, and they haven't been beaten since, and it's 30 games unbeaten. Isn't this amazing? And the all-time record is Italy with 31, and fantastic. Now, first of all, I'm sorry, I'm not having this unbeaten thing. I know statistically it's unbeaten, but they lost the Nations League final on penalties. But, all right, okay, I'll swallow that. And I thought, they haven't really played really good teams, have they? And then I went through the list. And of course, in the Euros, they beat Italy, Germany, England, France, and Croatia. So those are quite good teams. But I mean, it is true that in this run, they've also got a 5-4 win against the French, which was amazing because they were 4-0 up and it should never have been that close. And then it's true that the only other two teams they've played that are really strong are the Netherlands twice and Portugal. And they drew all of those, 2 2-2s and a 3-3. So maybe let's calm down, but let's not, because no one's playing as well as they are. They are brilliant.
I think that's the thing at the moment. Certainly in Europe, nobody's playing as well as Spain are. And again, let's highlight the fact that this result was done without a number of very important players who in theory should be missed and in practice absolutely weren't. I want to just ask you something, Sid, about one of those important players, and perhaps an even more important player now. Rodri's not there, but Martin Zubimendi is there. Is Martin Zubimendi now first choice for Spain ahead of Rodri?
When you said at the start of the podcast, whatever it was, 4 or 5 minutes ago, that there were 6 or 7 starters that weren't playing, my mind was already going, I'm not sure Rodri's the starter anymore. Now, obviously, look, that's a ridiculous thing to say about a Ballon d'Or winner, and a lot will depend on how he plays between now and the spring and what kind of shape he's in the spring. And who knows, maybe having not played as regular as he should at this stage of the season while he starts to get that full fitness back might mean that in the spring he's in better shape than Zubimendi. Touch wood, nothing happens to Zubimendi. Touch wood, there's not an injury and there's not even any fatigue, but there's a reasonable chance of some fatigue. But I think his performance level, Zubimendi, is so high that at the risk of saying something stupid, you don't miss Rodri at the moment. That's true. You really don't. And I do think they will and do miss Lamine Yamal and Nico Williams when he's at his best form. And Nico actually hasn't been at his best form yet this season, apart from that brilliant goal against Real Oviedo. He had to choose then, didn't he? But little so-and-so. But I do think they will miss those two. But I actually think that at the moment, they won't miss Rodri. Or they don't miss Rodri. That's not quite the same thing.
They genuinely don't. And Martin Zubimendi is sort of quietly carving out a space for himself, not just in this team, but I think in many people's maybe sort of.
But you know what?
Elite 11 across Europe.
Is this history repeating itself? Rodri would have played for Spain far earlier had it not been for the quality of Sergio Busquets. And would Zubimendi, maybe this opportunity would have come sooner had it not been for having a player as good as Rodri ahead of him. And actually, perhaps the quality of the player ahead of him sort of didn't allow us to see this, because players, however good they are, need to be on the pitch, need to be given that opportunity. And I think, I've always thought Zubimendi's a great player, but I will admit that he's turned out to be even better than I thought he would be.
You're going to Spain against Turkey tomorrow?
I am, because, it's not done yet. They could still lose 7-0 and not go through. I actually had an email from my editor today in the paper. And he said, I know you're going, and we were thinking this would be a match report, but maybe don't worry about it. He said, maybe give the desk a shout if they're losing 7-0. And I said, look, I'll tell you what, let's play safe. I'll give them a shout if they're losing 5-0.
Yes.
I'll tell you early. I'll let you know.
Yeah, so you're not expecting a busy night tomorrow.
I'm not expecting to be giving anyone a shout, putting it that way.
No. Okay. We'll see. We'll see what kind of team Luis de la Fuente fields tomorrow. Because they are technically through, but if you think about it, he really doesn't have that many games to prepare for the World Cup, does he? So this is important for him, even though Spain are all but mathematically qualified. He needs to use this game to continue because preparations.
In March they will have 2 games. At the moment, they know they've got one, which is the Finalissima against Argentina, which we don't know for sure. We don't know for sure yet, but we think it'll be played at Lusail in Doha, in Qatar, which is where the World Cup final was played. Which is a disappointment for me, of course, because it means almost certainly I won't be going, which is a pity. And then they will probably try and get another fixture for then. And I don't know what they'll go for. I don't know what they will think. That will be the last squad get together before he names his squad. Now there will be probably friendlies before the before the World Cup. I don't know what they'll choose, but by that point their squad will have been named, I think. So that will be the last get together.
Intriguing stuff. All right, so Spain taking on Turkey tomorrow in Valladolid, and of course Sydney.
In Seville. If it was Valladolid, it'd be even easier. Yes, it was Valladolid last time. I was in Valladolid against Bulgaria, I think.
Yes, you're absolutely right. In Seville. Well, it's a lovely.
It's a nice place to go. Yeah.
Good time of year to head down there as well. Okay, if you haven't already joined us at patreon.com/TSFP, why not? It's just €4.75 a month. You get the Monday and Friday podcast advert free. You get a Q&A podcast and a bonus podcast get the TSFP diary every week as well if you're in that tier. The newsletter, the Discord. Oh, there's so much going on, guys. And also, why not give the gift of TSFP at Christmas? Yes, for that football fan in your life that thinks that they know a lot about Spanish football or wants to know more about European football. Give the gift of TSFP at Christmas. Patreon.com/TS. That's just occurred to me now, Sid, to say that. We haven't.
I like it. No, I just like the idea
of a festive marketing campaign.
Exactly. Tearing open the wrapper and seeing you.
Yeah. Or just seeing a piece of paper saying patreon.com/TSFP. That's it. Anyway.
We should do little action figures, Kitro action figures. That'd be amazing.
Yeah. I'm up for it. Our merchandising hasn't gone amazingly in the past, so maybe we need to up that a little bit.
Yeah, we haven't been very good at that, have we? At all?
Yeah.
No.
All right, let's do some other stuff this week. Obviously, no La Liga, it's the international break, but there are still plenty of storylines for us to discuss. Not least, Sydney, finally, the return of Barcelona to the Camp Nou. It's happening.
Yep. Just a week after Messi went back, the rest of the players will go back too. He sneaked in, of course.
That's the first line of your piece, isn't it? Yeah.
But it's not because it's a news piece. But it's not because it's a news piece. I mean, if it was sort of a broader piece about the whole story, I mean, I think it might well be that the way that I hang it when I actually do go back at the weekend. It is, however, the payoff piece. Lionel sneaked in this Sunday. 45,000 fans will be able to follow him. But anyway, there we go. It's quite exciting, actually, I must say. I mean, for all, I'm sort of a little bit. I feel almost slightly bad by the fact that so much of this story has been dominated, and I think rightly so. So I shouldn't feel too bad by kind of missed deadlines and it's sort of not working out the way they wanted, and they say they're going to be there and they're not, and then they say again they're going to be there and they're not, and they say again they're going to be there and they're not, and they say that for every day that it's late, the company building the stadium will give them €1 million, which everyone's gone very quiet about ever since, because if that really was true, they'd have made a fortune over this being late, and it would be perfectly fine, and they'd be able to go and buy, Haaland or whatever. But there is a bit of me that thinks, I mean, that's kind of construction. We all knew that construction was never going to get done in time. It just sort of doesn't. And now, for all of that sort of slightly cynical and sort of, slightly let's all laugh at this kind of attitude we've had, including me. And I'm as guilty as most, well, not as guilty as most, but I'm guilty like lots of people. I think now I'm actually quite excited. I have one doubt. Okay. The footage, and I want to see this obviously on the weekend, but it won't give me a definitive answer. The footage of the stadium when they did the open training session, what was it, 10 days ago now?
Yeah.
It looked just like the old Camp Nou. Kind of thought, wow, they've done a modern, better version of it. It still looks the same. That beautiful Barcelona blue sky, the steep stands, the kind of very sheer, the colours and everything. I thought this looks like the Camp Nou should look. And then I thought, But once the roof's on, now I'm not knocking having a roof, by the way. A roof is a good thing in a football stadium, but it is true that it might lose some of that character. So I'd like to see when it's finally finished with the roof on. I think it will mean that as a stadium, it's better. But as in terms of kind of maintaining that Camp Nou feel, it probably won't be quite the same.
Well, it's not necessarily about maintaining the Camp
No,
Nou
it's
feel.
not. Of course, it's not. And I'm old fashioned. But for example, I see the Bernabeu, and for what it's worth, I think the Bernabeu is an absolute eyesore on the outside. I think it's a horrendously ugly stadium, but inside it's completely brilliant. I mean, that's everyone's got their taste, but
everyone's got their taste. Yeah, that's true.
Some of us just have better taste than others. That's all.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yes. Listen, sort of along the same. No, but just leaving aesthetics to one side, sort of going along the same kind of path that you were going down. I think. I mean, Joan Laporte is many things, right? But to have undertaken this at this time and to have sort of got it over the line, it's an incredible thing that he's done. It's unbelievable. I sort of take my hat off to him, having also,
absolutely.
When missed all these deadlines, but really, it's an unbelievable undertaking.
And I would like to point out at this stage that in our serious moments over the last few years, whenever we've talked in depth about Barcelona's financial difficulties, whenever we've talked about the levers, whenever we've talked about the mechanics of building a squad, we've always talked about how, for all the bluster that Laporta does, and he does a lot of it, right? He's a character. He's ballsy. I don't know if ballsy is the right word anymore, but you know what I mean. He's kind of does that thing of chest out and kind of goes for it. I think we've always talked about how the whole thing of the palancas, for example, and the cost of this is enormous. And obviously we won't know the full cost of all of the things that are happening until time passes and we see whether it worked out and we see whether or not there are problems going down the track. And certainly, there are elements of huge elements of Barcelona's finances that still concern and still you sort of wonder about. But I think we've always said that the palancas thing, the thing about the levers was about trying to maintain a strong squad and trying to maintain a competitive team and knowing that actually there isn't a financial advantage in selling your best players, because what you might gain in terms of savings on salaries and not spending money on transfers, you're probably losing somewhere else. And that, in a way, what he was saying is the whole point of the palancas was, let's sell assets that aren't the assets that would actually destroy us by losing them. There's plenty of examples of teams that have sold their assets being their players, and it hasn't helped them in the slightest.
That's true. It's true. I'm looking forward to it. I'm commentating the game. It should be quite a huge occasion. I just had a look at some of the prices for the tickets for the game.
Are they very high?
They're very high. They're very, 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 very high, as you would expect. I presume you'll be going to this, Sid.
I certainly have applied to go to this, so let's hope that the press box is finished. It'd be quite funny, wouldn't it, if they emailed back and said, "This will teach you for laughing at us over the years." Actually, we've been able to open 2/3 of the stadium and only 2/3 of the press box, and you're not getting in, sunshine.
Yes, sorry, annoying loudmouth Englishman, you're not
exactly.
Coming. Yes. Yeah. This weekend there was the NFL game at the Bernabeu. The Washington, what are they called?
Commanders, aren't they? Are they
Commanders? The Commanders against the Dolphins.
What was once the Redskins, but it's the Dolphins. Yes. The Dolphins are still the Dolphins, yeah.
Dolphins are still the Dolphins. Anyway, the actual game itself and the scoreline is lo de menos. The Dolphins won in overtime. But obviously, this is kind of seen the old question of playing a game from a league in a different country resurface. Javier Tebas using the opportunity to take to social media to say, look,
like him.
Yes. See what's happening. They're playing a game in foreign soil. We should be doing this.
Yeah.
And also criticising Real Madrid.
Yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, I'll criticise Real Madrid because his point is that, you hosted this, they give you loads of money, you're delighted about it, yet you're the ones banging on about competition integrity and so on and so forth. Now, I can see the argument on a superficial level that is being used here, and I can understand it on a superficial level. Yeah, look, you were against it, and now you're welcoming it. But I think actually it's really massively flawed as an argument. Because first of all, it implies that somehow it's the Spanish clubs, Spanish fans, Spanish media, everyone who was against going to Miami, which by the way wasn't everyone, and in particular Real Madrid, who have somehow made this happen. They haven't. The NFL was already going abroad. It was already coming to Europe. What they've done is offer up another location. They haven't made it happen. Secondly, the process by which you agree to do this is handled differently in the NFL than the way it is in La Liga. Thirdly, that idea of competition integrity, the structure of an NFL season means the idea of competition integrity, everyone plays everyone home and away, just doesn't exist. I think we would then, and a lot of our listeners will tell us this, in fact, have told us this. We've talked about this a lot, and thank you all for engaging with this from a transatlantic perspective. The whole kind of cultural, economic, business mentality and mindset behind it, and what football clubs and American football clubs represent, symbolize, what the expectations of their fans are, is completely different. Well, maybe not completely, but it's very, very different. And so I just think that this is, I mean, this is not me exactly splitting the atom or making some great discovery. This is a bit opportunistic from Mr. Tebas. And I think that while the argument, as I say, on a superficial basis, I can see it. I can see the basic point. Yeah, I get you. But actually unpack it a little bit, and it's really not the same thing.
I mean, this was a huge thing for the city of Madrid. It felt like.
Oh, it was.
Yeah. Was it? It was. Wasn't
well,
it?
I don't know. I mean, it feels like
yeah.
in terms of media coverage, it feels like the Castellana was closed. I must admit, I didn't really understand. The Castellana, for those who don't know, is the long avenue that runs right through Madrid from south to north, all the way up out the city to the northern gateway, and is where the Bernabeu is. And here's the thing, right? It was closed. So it doesn't get closed for Champions League night. Surely there's as many people going to the stadium then. I suppose it was about creating an event. It was about trying to do the paraphernalia, which I'm sure would have happened in Miami with the La Liga game. It was about creating this idea that this is huge. Obviously, it's been projected in Spain as this is the greater glory of Real Madrid rather than the NFL. And, this is Madrid's success. In fact, the headline in AS was Madrid wins. To be fair, it was Madrid wins, not El Madrid wins. So it was Madrid, the city wins. And I think there is that. I think there is a political element to it. I think there is a business element to it. There is this idea of internationalization. And look, Madrid at the heart of that, which is, I think, actually been used a little bit unpleasantly by some of the usual people to sort of say, you see, only Real Madrid could do this. Oh, you'd never get this anywhere else. Well, it's happened in London, mate. I mean, it's
happened in Germany.
It's happened in Germany, So, but it has felt like a big event. But I think that's partly because of the media coverage. I suspect it's also the kind of event that will probably be forgotten relatively quickly. But I don't know.
Yes. Unless the NFL keep pushing it and they bring it back.
I'm sure they'll come back. Whether or not it'll be the Bernabeu, I honestly don't know. But I'm sure they will come back because, in a way, I suppose, if this has been successful and all the signs are that it has, why wouldn't they come back? But then I suppose it's also one of those things. And this actually, by the way, this does speak to my issue with the whole Miami thing. It's one of those things that it feels to me that this is about the event rather than the game. And so the question is, long-lasting impact, is there one? Or do people just go to this because it's an event?
Feels like people are going because it was an event.
And might that be translatable to what might have happened in Miami?
Maybe. Different sports, Sid. Different sport, different
exactly.
market.
Lots of different contexts. Exactly. Exactly.
The game apparently was absolutely terrible, like a terrible game of American football.
Oh, it was a thriller according to the Spanish media. But apparently it was terrible. People actually know American football said it was awful.
Before we go, and you've got to go to the vet quickly. So we should mention what you did on Saturday night.
Extraordinary occasion, really. Palestine played against the Basque national team, which of course not officially recognised, at San Mamés, and it was as an event, as an occasion, it was extraordinary in terms of atmosphere. It really, really quite mind blowing. I was talking to someone post game who from the Basque setup who sort of said to me, have you ever seen anything like this? I genuinely don't think I have, and it was it was really quite amazing.
As you said, tremendous atmosphere, 50,000 people there.
I mean, 51,000 a bit. Hang on, was it 53,000? I can't remember now. Very nearly full. And it had actually sold out, and San Mamés was rocking. And it was one of those, because it was about kind of solidarity and the idea of there being... there was it's a slightly more awkward one, this, I think, but the idea of a sort of some elements of a shared identity and so on. And, every time Palestine attacked, the fans who were theoretically supporting El Skadi were cheering them on, trying to get them wanting them to score. And it was, as an occasion, it was unlike anything I think I've ever seen.
Go and read Sid's match report from The Guardian on that event, because It's definitely worth it. We're going to leave it there. Sid's got to head off to go to the vets. So we'll be back tomorrow over at patreon.com/TSFP taking your questions with our Q&A podcast. And if you don't want to be a patron, you really, really should. And you should buy a membership for your loved ones for Christmas. But if you don't want to be a patron, then we'll be back on Friday with the preview pod looking ahead to this weekend's La Liga action. So make sure you join us then. Adios.
Cheerio.